All right, guys, welcome to our podcast. This is Randy Olive, and I'm here with Crystal Dyson. And what we're doing is just having conversations about books. There's a lot of great books in leadership, and I know that a lot of times I want to know a little bit more about what's happening inside of this book, whether or not I want to jump into the commitment to read it. And so we're just going to go through some of the books that we've found very fascinating and that have helped our organization at a high level. And so today we're going to be discussing the Strengthsfinder. So Strengthsfinder is a Gallup poll book. Tom Rath is the author on it if you want to go look at it. It's the Strengthsfinder 2.0. It's a really great book. And one of the reasons why I love this book is that it helps to create, and even talks about it, helps to create a common language behind strengths for us. It gets to it tells you about the personality of strengths inside of your organization or even your own personal life if you just want to use it for your own personal growth. And what it does is it helps you to recognize strengths, because I know first thing is that a lot of people can't recognize their strengths. If I were to go and ask 5 random people, what are your top 5 strengths? They're going to struggle with coming up with, they might be able to get 1 right out of the gate, but getting to 5 is going to be really difficult. But even when they get to 1, they're not going to be able to describe it very well at all. That's just, I think it's just a human condition. I think we've been conditioned to that, but that's beyond the point. And so what it does is it identifies strengths to create a common language about strengths. It then goes to give you a descriptor of that strength so you can understand how you fit inside of that strength. Then it goes through and tells you what are some ways in which you can capitalize on your strength in your day-to-day activities. And then it helps you if you're helping lead an organization. What do you do to engage people who have these particular strengths? And so I just want to open up and really kind of have a conversation about how they define what's happening inside of this book. And so what it says is that these 34 themes represent our best attempt to create a common language or classification of talent. By no means did we capture everything. There are hundreds of even more specific themes we did not include in this classification. However, we wanted to keep this language manageable so it could be easily used with work teams, family, and friends, which I think is what they've done here, to be able to keep a manageable, simple conversation around strengths to be able to help your organization grow. It says what Strengthsfinder actually measures, though, is talent, not strength. As an aside, we named it Strengthsfinder instead of Talent Finder because the ultimate goal is to build a true strength, and a talent is just one of the ingredients to that formula. And so it has this great little assessment that it goes through, and it has these questionnaires, and you have it at the end of the book. You take the questionnaire, and then it gives you your top strengths. And so it helps you understand what your strengths are. Now, it's always interesting to be able to take a test for it to be able to tell me what my strengths are. But I think you would even say this, Crystal, is that once you do this test and you go through the process, it really is pretty interesting, though, how spot on it is about digging into your personality and helping you understand your talents.
Right. I think it's pretty incredible how we struggle so much to find our specific traits or identify that. And we're living in our own bodies, obviously, and living in our own minds. And we have such struggle. And then we do these type of tests that really kind of focus on those key things. And then you read it and it's spot on. Just from this little quick quiz that was so simple, it really was spot on. And I really like how they speak specifically about this being your talent. I think not enough people think they have talent. Like some people just don't even think that there's talent.
Yeah.
They have any. Everyone has talent. And this really helps you define what that talent is. And then you can invest the time into it to make it your strength. And I think that's what really this book is the key value of this book.
And one of the other things inside of that, Crystal, is that not only is it talking about talent and strength in that kind of same cue, but it also begins to open up the door that when we exist inside of our strengths, it's a multiplier. And so it discusses how to really dig into that multiplier. And then, in kind of the introduction, the very first part of this book, but as it goes through and it opens up each of the strengths and the dialogue behind each of the strengths, it helps you to understand how can I engage either in my own strength to make it multiply my life towards what I want to grow and the satisfaction in my life. Or if I'm running in an organization, how can I tap into people's strengths so that then they're able to multiply themselves? And obviously, if they're inside of my organization, I'm going to benefit from that. But it's less about how can I just benefit just for benefit's sake from the strengths. It's about how do I practically take this into my own world and make it exactly what I want, and which is a really great idea. What you just said is very true. Often we find ourselves in this space where we don't think we're talented. This gives a name to the talents that we actually possess. And I think it's really great. When you can name it, it becomes something that's real and it becomes more manageable. And it helps us to really find ourselves in, I think, a better state of mind, a better mood. It gives us purpose if we can find and identify our strengths or our talents.
Right. I agree with that. And you said kind of a corporation can use it to better the corporation, but I think it's also bettering the people. I don't think it's selfish to use their strengths to better a company because, it even talks about that specifically in here. You're going to have more satisfaction using your strength. People that are more dissatisfied with their jobs, those strengths aren't being heightened. They're not being used. So they don't feel satisfied in their workplace. So I think, I think, yes, businesses can use this and it can benefit them. Right. But I think the benefit also benefits the people that are using them.
Yeah. The personal satisfaction is really important, and especially if you want to really dig down to it. Like, I want to have some sort of edification in my life. If I am unaware of what my talents are, if I'm unaware of what my strengths are, I don't know that I ever have the ability to feel edified in anything that I do, because I'm just existing to see what could happen next, versus I'm existing, and inside of that existing, I'm finding satisfaction by digging through my day, through my strengths, and growing myself, multiplying myself through those strengths. And so I think one of the things that you said, though, inside of an organization, if we take that part out and I look at my ability to be inside of and produce in an organization, well, then if I can do that inside of my strengths, regardless of who's around me, who's trying to grow me, who's trying to build me, I have the ability to take captive my own life and my own personal satisfaction when I can identify it. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this book. It brings an identity to things that we wouldn't know how to name. I look at my strengths. Actually, this is a great segue into when I look at my strengths. Mine are achiever, woo, positivity, activator, and strategic. Out of all of these, I would have described myself very similarly in each of these terms, except for activator. I would have never have described myself as an activator. But when you go in and you dig through what it means to be an activator, it's absolutely in tune to who I am and the reason why I exist to build a business and lead a business. And so I appreciate its ability to give names to the things that I felt. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, no, I think it absolutely makes sense. Yeah, it's just more of identifying what drives you. Same as you. We have complete opposite traits, but mine was intellection, responsibility, relator, learner, and input. And it was pretty spot on. It definitely gave a definition of kind of what it is that I do or feel, and what drives me, which I don't know that I specifically knew or could identify exactly what that was. One of the things that we've even spoken about has been that I like things going in order. I'm not quick to change, but I'm extremely loyal. And here I kind of find that I do like change, which was really interesting. So I think you can learn a lot of interesting stuff about yourself, and I think you can use all of this to find strengths for you and to kind of find the career. If you're a young person reading this is a must. This is absolutely a must.
Yeah. No, when you and I were talking about this book earlier, one of the things that you said is that, like, gosh, we've been conditioned to really look at and analyze our weaknesses and figure out where we can overcome that. And even the book talks about, like, that has become a detriment to society, that we look at building these great stories of I rose from my weakness to conquer the world. And there's nothing wrong with that story. I'm just make sure we're on the same page. There's nothing wrong on that story. But what this is saying is that is the path of the most resistance if we go through conquering the world out of our weaknesses. There's a multiplier effect that can happen when we conquer the world from within our strengths. And I think what's even better about that, when I identify this, which this has helped me to do, this book has helped me inside of our organization to do, is that I need people for the projects that I have in different strengths that I don't possess. And so not only am I able to add a multiplying effect in my own life, but I add a multiplying effect to community, which I think is really, really important, especially in this day and age, because I don't get there without people being with me. And I can find the people who will most likely go with me by digging into their strengths.
Right. I agree with that 100%. I think even when you look at other countries, this is something that I've known that kind of brought it back in my mind. I went to school with a foreign exchange student, and where she's from, they actually they have to take an assessment when they're younger, and they go to school specifically for their strengths. Their whole public system, education system is completely different than ours. We kind of have a broad range, and then you go to college and you define that. They start from a very young age and define who they want to be, because why am I going to waste time in an area that I'm not good at? Of course, there's tools you need, but I just thought that was really interesting. It just brought my mind back to that, and what a different way that is if you started using your strengths at a very young age.
Yeah, and man, how wonderful would it be if you were a high school student that was reading this book to figure out what the career path was going to look like for me, to be able to understand, where am I strong? Where am I talented? Where's my personality? And how does it fit into the bigger picture of this world? And then how can I have personal satisfaction? And I speak of that quite a bit, is that personal satisfaction element. I think we all desire to have a certain level of personal satisfaction. It's hard to find that personal satisfaction if we're just wandering. This book is just a pathway. Let's be honest. There's nothing magical about it, but it does provide a pathway towards being together, towards growing and benefiting our organization by strengths and talents. Not focusing on weaknesses and elevating weaknesses, but rather looking at our strengths and using them as a multiplying effect. When it moves into the second portion of this book, right? When it goes into the phase 2 of the book, or whatever, the portion 2, segment 2, number 2, whatever the second part of this book, it opens up each of the 35 distinct themes, and it helps you to understand a little bit more about it. Something that I found really important and really good and useful is that, like I said earlier, many people can't identify where their strengths are, but even if they were, they couldn't give it a description, I think, that is proper, because it's so much of feelings. Like, our strengths are inside of us. We feel our strengths, I think, more than we can describe our strengths.
Right.
It's just a challenge. And so what I loved about it is it gave us words to put into our life based off of our strengths. And so even like looking at the achiever, it's like you feel every day like you have to start at a 0. And an achiever is my number 1, by the way. By the end of the day, you have to achieve something tangible in order to feel good about yourself. And every day, by the way, means every single day, work days, weekends, and vacations. And I thought, that's absolutely true. I wake up every single day with this need to achieve. I've just never put it, and I would have never put it at number 1. But you know me well enough to know that that actually is my number 1 thing. Every single day, I need to feel that there was something that was edifying about my day, that I was able to achieve something. And it doesn't matter if it's a weekend or a vacation. There still has to be something. And so that meant a lot to me to look at that and go, oh, no, my number 1 is not achiever. It should be woo. That really is my number 1. But the reality is that the satisfaction I get from the achiever vernacular is way more accurate. And so I would have never put that into perspective. This book helps me to put my own personality into perspective that I've been living with for 39 years, right? And so it's just really good to be able to see that, to have that description, and to be able to live inside of that description. But the other thing that it goes through is it gives you ideas for action. How do I put my strength into action on a daily basis? I think that was massive for me, is to look at it on, there's one little part that I highlighted. It says, count personal achievements in scoring system that will help you direct your achiever talents towards family and friends, as well as towards work. So often we read these books and how does this applicable towards my career? And what I liked about that little portion is that it hit me between the eyes, because I haven't created a scoring system at home because I want it to feel more organic and to feel good and all that good stuff. But the reality is that if my strength is in this achiever, and that I activate my strength in this achiever moment, why can't I gamify my ability to be interacting out of my strengths with my family? I've never thought of that before. I know that sounds real simple, but yet I think there's a lot of people who need to pick up this book, read through it, take the test, go through the assessment, see where their strengths are, and understand how can I actually apply this in my day so that then my personal satisfaction in life is multiplied. My family, if I did this, it may feel weird to me at first, but my family will never understand that it's a game if I'm truly connecting with them through this little strengths moment, right?
Right. I agree with that. And on the contrary, mine, for intellection, you like to think. I'm reading obviously from the passage for my trait. You like to think, your mental activity. You like exercising the muscles of your brain, stretching them in multiple directions. This need for mental activity may be focused. For example, you may be trying to solve a problem or develop an idea or understand another person's feeling. The exact focus will depend on your other strengths. I won't continue reading too far into this, but it even goes into how you can almost be unfocused sometimes, which I have found that, and it kind of gives you some pointers on how you can fine tune this strength. And one of the things I do notice about myself, which is complete opposite of you, which I have to say that I just really love reading these books with somebody you work with, because you really get to know them a lot more and a lot deeper, and you can understand. And this can be so useful for businesses because it does give you practical ways to deal with people and know how to speak to them.
Yeah.
So, but moving forward, so one of the things that I found out from this, which I've always known, but I never really knew why, I have to have alone time. Like, I have to have alone time to be able to think and kind of rationalize things in my head. And it's just something where almost introverts, I don't think, understand this completely, because it's almost exhausting to be around a lot of people. I enjoy it, but then I have to go back into my cocoon and kind of take a moment to be by myself. Even at home, sometimes I just need quiet. I just need space, and I need that moment, and something that I have been aware of, but I've never been able to fully identify and as much as this. But it's something that my family knows,
Yeah.
But again, not knowing how to put a definition in the words that they use to describe this, I think are really good.
It's so important how strong words are. Mm-hmm. The whole phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's just not true. When we can put words to things and we can identify them, they become real and more active in our life. And so for those people who are out there curious about this particular book, I would highly recommend it because of that one fact of it giving, like you said, giving us the definition to our feelings, mm-hmm. giving us the definition to the things that we think our strengths are, and allowing us to be able to not only find our personal satisfaction, but again, to exploit those things and to grow them, to multiply them. And how wonderful would the world be if every single person was able to live inside of their strengths? I think it would be brilliant. It would be beautiful. There's a little anecdote in the very beginning that it talks about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan existing in his strengths created a beautiful thing inside of basketball that's been immortalized, right? But Michael Jordan couldn't Michael Jordan basketball. Couldn't Michael Jordan baseball. He couldn't Michael Jordan golf. He could Michael Jordan basketball. And then that idea, what happens when all of us have that kind of just brilliance in everything that we touch, because what we're doing it and how we're doing it is outside of our strengths. And the way we were able to get there was because this book helped us to define what that looked like. I love that what it goes on to do is help you to understand how to work with others inside of it. So it gives mm-hmm. you some practicality of if you have these people in your organization, then you need to be able to activate them in this way. And I thought that was really important, because when I look at it, there's not a single project that we couldn't just blow out of the water if we find the skill sets, the strengths, the talents necessary, pull our audience, our organization, and pull those people inside of those projects. There's nothing we couldn't do.
Right. Yeah.
At least I feel that way.
No, I agree. I think it's kind of limitless, but of course, you have to know their strengths first. So I'm just really looking forward to digging in this further and really finding even the people that we work with, what their strengths are, because I think there's some untapped talent that we haven't even tapped into yet. So
yeah. No, and so again, highly recommended this book, Strengthsfinder 2.0. I'm going to leave you guys with a parting thought in the very first part of the book, which goes through the introduction. And here's the idea that it has. It says, our natural talents and passions, the things we truly love to do, last for a lifetime, but all too often our talents go untapped. Mark Twain once described a man who died and met St. Peter at the pearly gates. Knowing that St. Peter was very wise, the man asked the question that he had wondered about throughout his life. He asked St. Peter, I have been interested in military history for many years. Who is the greatest general of all time? St. Peter quickly responded, that's a simple question. It's that man right over there. You must be mistaken, responded the man, now very perplexed. I know that man on earth, and he was just a common laborer. That, my friend, is correct, assured Peter. He would have been the greatest general of all time if he had been a general. The story illustrates a truth that unfortunately is all too common. Far too many people spend a lifetime headed in the wrong direction. They go not only from cradle to cubicle, but then to the casket without uncovering their greatest talents and potential. And that's why I believe people need to pick up this book. They need to use it in their organizations. They need to use it in their life, and they need to really find ways in which it can help them grow and edify their day-to-day. Crystal, any parting thoughts before we close out here?
My conclusion would be for every young adult to pick this book up. If you are a parent, get this for your teenager, get this for your young 20-year-old. I think this kind of helps fine-tune where they can use their strengths in their career and their future. So at a detrimental time in their life when they're trying to figure out what they're going to do and who they are, this is something that's not going to be the cure-all, but this is definitely going to help them, give them some tools to use for their future.
Help them understand their strengths. All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us. Again, this is Randy and Crystal. We're just going to be diving into the books that we find are necessary to help us grow, help our organizations grow, and hopefully you gain something out of this. If you want to, go pick up this book. Again, Strengthsfinder 2.0. There is an assessment in it, so make sure you get a book that's not used. You need to buy this brand new, and to be able to take that assessment, understand what your strengths are, dig into it, and find that it will help you to grow. So you guys go be amazing and have an absolutely wonderful day.